Hello, everyone, and welcome to the IFMA session on the state of FM. My name's Tim Bernadez. I'll be moderating today. I'm with JLL. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. This needs to be an interactive session, and we want to make sure that we're doing more than just talking. We want to engage. So there'll be Q&A throughout the presentation. Feel free to use the chat function to do anything as far as sending us questions or commenting on the material that we are presenting. We'll also be doing polls. There'll be about a third of the way through, there'll be 3 polls that we'll do all together. We'd love for you to engage with those polls and help us again learn and go through this all together in a very interactive way. At the end of the session, we'll be sending out both the video and the State of FM Technology report, so be looking for those in your emails. With that, let's jump over and introduce our panel. So first, I'm the moderator, Tim Bernadez. I'm in Alpharetta, Georgia. I'm part of JLL Technology. I run the workplace management tech. What we do there is basically align all of our tech stack with the business strategies, and that's across CMMS, sustainability, smart building platforms, occupancy planning, and engineering services. I'd like then to introduce our panelists. We have Jason Noren, who is in Frisco, Texas. He's with Brinker. Jason is the VP of Asset Management. He oversees architecture, construction, facilities management for both Chili's and Maggiano's restaurant. And if you think about Jason's journey, I won't say how many years, but he started as a dishwasher and has moved all the way through the rank and file now to the position that he holds. During that time, he also earned his degree in economic and finance, and that would be an MBA. So very educated, very well-versed in kind of the FM space. Second, I'd like to introduce Max Zareo. Max is in New Jersey, South Amboy. He has 14 years experience in construction and facilities management. Max is the Chief Operating Officer at CFM Associates. He and his wife have owned that business for 17 years, and he's built and scaled several businesses over the years. Max is passionate about driving operational efficiency, and he's focused on creating self-efficient construction and maintenance companies. So Max, welcome.
Thank you.
And then lastly, we have Scott Bowick, and Scott is a product lead at JLL. Scott he heads up the Corrigo platform. He has over 20 years of experience. Right now, he's very focused on AI and how to use AI to drive management and vendor performance and optimize efficiency. Scott's got an MBA in information systems and marketing, and I've worked with Scott for some time now. He has a great knack of taking what's very complicated and making it easy for the rest of us. So Scott, welcome.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, so with that, what we want to do is we want to walk through what we did with the State of Facilities Management report. And in Q4 of last year, JLL sent out a survey to just about 300 participants who were all in the FM space. And we utilized that data to get a pulse on what's happening in the industry, what we're seeing, and what we need to begin to plan for as we move forward as FM professionals. And we grabbed a handful of those comments, questions, topics, and we brought them forward to discuss them with you today. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start the conversation. Again, please make it interactive so we're just not talking the whole time, and plug in through the chat anytime you feel. So one of the big things that we heard through the survey was everybody is having to do more with less. There's more work to be done. We need more visibility into how effective we're being in the work that we're doing. We need more insights to drive better decisions, not just data, but actionable insights that help us all do better. There's a big focus on risk and compliance. And then we have disruption from technology and the economy that's driving all sorts of different behaviors within our space. And we're doing this all with less. Budgets, as we all know, are constricting. We're having to manage more facilities with fewer managers. We all know and have experienced a shortage in the FM labor force. And We continue to need better margins across both kind of what I would call the work requester side and the service provider side. So there's so much more that we need to do, and we're all being forced to do that with less. And that kind of sets up our first question. If you look at the work required to maintain facilities, compare last year, your team's volume of work orders has what? And the feedback that we got is 55% said that work order volume was increasing and 30% said it was the same. So the majority of us are either going to have to maintain or do more work orders and deliver more services to keep our facilities than we did last year. So we want to jump in, and I want to drive this question to Jason and Max, but I'm going to start with Jason. So Jason, given the current market, what are the most significant obstacles you're encountering in your business today?
Yeah, thanks, Tim, and glad to be here. Glad to have everyone. So the first thing is really operations ownership. As we think about going through COVID and the situation there turned over a lot of our managers. So now we have newer managers that might not be as savvy in the facilities. So really creating that growth, that operations ownership mindset has been an obstacle for us to overcome. The other one is vendor performance. Like Tim was saying, it's hard to find good vendors, and the best vendors are usually overworked. They have too many. We love them so much, we give them too much work, and that affects their ability to perform. And the last one is really just eyes on the trends. How do we continue to make sure that we're proactive? Because some of the equipment time that we've seen has been elongated from the past. So we can't wait 8 weeks to get new equipment. So how do we make sure we stay ahead of that so we're minimizing the operations disruption for our team?
Yeah, and Jason, as you've had to deal with all of these, kind of new variables in the space, how are these impacts to the business changing the day-to-day decisions that you make to run your facilities?
So I think the first thing is really understanding that we need to have a strong operations partnership and support mindset. The other one is, we need to be experts in the facilities so that we can train and ensure that our operators know about the equipment and the facilities, because some of them have anxiety about touching a piece of equipment or changing a filter. The things that maybe in the past were common knowledge are not there. And, the fear of breaking something really keeps them more paralyzed. So we need to make sure that we're giving them the education, the training, and the partnership, because they ultimately need to own their facilities, because facilities management isn't just well repaired and maintained equipment, it's also clean. For the restaurant industry, we have to be clean and well maintained, and the best person to do that is the operator that's in front of that in that restaurant every day.
Yes. Yeah. And Max, prior to kind of everything that's going on and the advent of tech, how were you operating as a service provider prior to everything that we're seeing today?
So to kind of go off of what Jason was saying, I think I have a little bit of an interesting view into this, kind of being on both sides of it, being on the service pro side and more on the management side. You have to give your technicians the confidence to do what they're going to do and like whatever it may be, touch that equipment and work on that equipment and manage those things. But Tim, to answer your question, since we kind of came from a background with less technology, we were operating, old school spreadsheets, very archaic compared to the way that things are managed these days. So we really weren't doing much at all. It was very basic, very old school, and we've really kind of come into using this stuff to help on both sides of what we do, on the facility side and then also on the service pro side.
Yeah, and just a quick question, and I'll just throw it out to either of you. Skilled labor, so we have all of this happening at the same time. It's very difficult, as we've heard, to get the skilled labor. Are you seeing those impacts to your business, and how are you trying to overcome that?
Definitely. Skilled labor is one of the biggest complaints, I think, in my world. whether it's finding service providers for us or finding our in-house technicians that we also have. It's difficult. It's hard. And this kind of thing helps. You'll get people that are more willing when they see that you have things in place to make their jobs easier. But that's a constantly growing thing, Jason. I don't know if you can talk on that at all.
Yeah, I think our big markets are getting better. We have, and we don't self-perform. We have vendors do all of our repairs and maintenance. But what we're seeing still in our remote markets in New Mexico and El Paso and some of those other places, it's still hard to find trusted vendor partners that you can count on to show up. With 80 restaurants in Dallas, we have a pretty good amount of vendors that want to be partners with us. So they prioritize ensuring that our restaurants are front of the line. But those are definitely opportunities that we're constantly challenging ourselves to find new and better vendors. And also you could have the best vendor, but then give them too much work. And now you have another issue where you've just given them too much work and they can't grow as fast as you need them to do, right? The problem is I have money.
Yes. And we're hearing that across the board and in all the sessions that we've been in, solving the skilled labor dilemma has been top of mind for everyone. Okay, so we're going to transition real quick to some interactive polls. So we'd like for you all to go ahead and scan the QR. We'll give everybody a minute to do that. And we have 3 questions that we're going to ask, and we'd like for you all to take a moment and give us your feedback. So just real quickly, the first poll is, how well does your current tech stack support day-to-day operational actions your team needs to take? So it'll take us about 20 seconds for everything to catch up, and we'll see how this poll comes together. So we got a relatively even split. All right, so we kind of ended up in thirds. Highly proactive, at least 50% of the work is planned, somewhat proactive, and then the last is reactive. Things break and we fix them. All right, great. And we'll talk more about these and make sure everybody gets this feedback as well. All right, so the second poll question. How well does your current tech stack help you improve cost structure and operational efficiencies? Just like a video game when I was a kid. All right, so we're kind of seeing adequate but room for improvement and insignificant strategic contribution, day-to-day management seem to be where the majority of the group is coming out on the question. All right, great. And the last poll question, how would you describe your organization's current stance on AI in facilities management? Yeah, so this is shaping up very similar to how we've seen in most of the working sessions that we've been in around AI. Lots of exploring, lots of interest, but no, there's not yet a way to buy in as an organization and begin to utilize AI to kind of change the trajectory of your business. So this is very similar to what we've seen at other sessions. All right, great. We will continue to take this feedback on the poll, so please send that through. Let's shift over to technology and tools. When we think about how do we optimize service delivery, how do we optimize energy costs, how do we extend asset and life cycles, how do we make our techs more efficient, how do we work better with our great service partners on the provider side of the business, and then lastly, how do we get what we need from the C-suite, which is often what I hear most, is just convincing the leadership teams within our companies that hold the purse strings to fund the activity that we need. We want to talk about how do we do this better going forward. So Max, you've been very keen on adopting technology, to monitor projects, to get the information that you need. Can you give the audience a little bit of an insight into how you're adopting and using tech?
Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, that we come from not having it to using it, up to its full potential at this point. Some of the main things I want to hit on that we really enjoy about it with our company here is things like auto notifications for team members when work comes in, whether it's reactive or proactive, things like that. We love that we're getting, it's getting assigned, which leads me to the next one, which is assigning things based on priority levels, and then ultimately assigning them to the either service technician or the service pro that we have that would be going out to do the work. We love that it helps us automate all of that. It's less thinking, less paperwork, and it really kind of streamlines the process for us across the board.
And as you've leaned in more to technology, there often is a hesitancy from technicians and others to actually adopt and use that technology. Did you experience that? And do you have any advice on how to help individuals get past that?
Absolutely. It's, a blue collar background does not necessarily put someone in a position where they want to all of a sudden start using something like this for their day to day. I think the two biggest things are giving them the tools they need, giving them the training they need, open door policy. If you need anything, come in, talk to us at any time, and giving them those tools to use it. And then I think the other part of it comes down to when these technicians or these service pros get involved with us and our company and what we do, they start to see that this is the future, and anybody that wants to be involved is going to adapt and use it. And as soon as they start to see how well it works and how efficient it is and the tracking, and we could go on for hours of all of those intricacies, right? But once they start to see that, whether they're someone who has a little bit of a background or there's somebody that really truly has been swinging a hammer their entire lives, we've seen almost across the board that they get involved, they get on board, and they kind of they want to run with it, and that's kind of the best advice I can give is you have to let it do what it's supposed to do, and generally you're going to have people, if they want to be there and they want to be involved, they're going to run with it.
Yeah, and I'm going to go off script just a little bit because I think this is an important topic. Jason, have you seen any of that, or do you have any advice for the audience?
Yeah, I think when you think about the technology, and maybe there was some other conversation we had, but the first thing I think about is you need to have a growth mindset and think about facilities as a profit generator, not only a cost to the business. Right? When you have that that growth mindset, you can also look at removing operations disruptions, right? How much does it cost you when you can't see the table because there's a roof leak? How much does it cost you when your fryer is down and you can't get people in and out in 45 minutes, but instead it's an hour and 20 minutes and the wait goes longer, right? So it's thinking about some of those things and then driving it into how it affects operations and ultimately the guest experience. The team experience is only, or the guest experience is only going to be as good as the team experience. So if we don't have equipment working, if we don't have a safe environment, those are going to affect us. also, when you think about, we have over 6,000 preventative maintenance tickets that go out every 3 months. So having someone do that by themselves would take an army of people to just put those tickets in. But because we have the system, it's automated, and we can put the scope and a lot of details on there by one person clicking a button, getting that out to everyone. The other thing that we see is really being able to know which vendors are performing well through satisfaction surveys, through what Max was talking about with what's their resolution time, right? We have our service level agreements, we have key performance indicators that really give us insights to which vendors are performing well and which ones do we need to have conversations with or hunt for new vendors so that we can make sure we're always protecting our restaurant and the guest experience.
Yeah, that's great. That's it. Thank you both. And Max, one last question on this topic. How do you provide better experience and more transparency for your customers or even internally through kind of the tech and the operations that you've established now?
So it definitely allows us to tailor an experience. We can be as involved or uninvolved as any of our clients or customers would like. I think on a much smaller level, we're medium-sized for sure. Our clients like that. They want to be able to kind of pick and choose what they're getting out of it from us, and we can offer, everything or just some smaller stuff, some smaller things. It definitely allows us to operate with, a tighter budget with our clients in mind. So it helps because they want that, but it also allows us to do it with a kind of a tighter crew as well. Our team is relatively small for what we do, and I definitely think all around it's kind of a time saver where it lets us do, higher output with less team members, less staff, less service providers kind of across the board for us. So it kind of works in both directions there, where it allows us to benefit, but then we can also pass that benefit on to our clients as well. They seem to really like that.
Excellent. Yeah, and when we ask the question around what top outcomes do you expect from your work order management software, you can kind of see that, it basically begins to kind of congregate into these 5 areas. And Jason, one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about is, can you share specific instances where data capture in your CMS has been used to kind of drive critical decisions within your organization?
Yep. Yeah, and we kind of talked about it earlier with the vendor performance and the satisfaction rating, but one of the things that's really important is this repair versus replace decision making, right? So with this automated, with the system that we have, we're able to see the repair history. We're also able to see if this equipment is under warranty and then what the asset life of this equipment is, because it might be at end of life, and instead of having a repair, maybe we can just go ahead and get a new one in there so that we save money, or make a repair just to get it up and running so that we have time to get a new one, but don't let it break again after that. Those are some of the big things. And then also every asset that we have says if it's under warranty or not. So when you go to open a ticket or work order on a piece of equipment, it will have a signal up top that says warranty, and it will ensure that it is going to the warranty provider and not to just maybe their equipment repair person that's not the certified person that can fix that equipment under warranty. So it ensures that we're not needlessly spending money when it's under warranty.
Yeah, and we've seen kind of a surge in asset tagging and kind of the value of tagging assets. What are your thoughts around that, Jason?
Yeah, so we're actually in a proof of concept for asset tagging. We think asset tagging is the future, but we also understand that if we don't do it right, we could be back at square one because it's a cycle, right? You have to, when you get new equipment, you got to get it on there. And then when you dispose of equipment, you have to make sure that your assets are the right assets there, or it can, in 2 years, unravel from you. So we're taking a very focused approach. But really, if I think about our desire here is to have a holistic view of our asset management strategy, right? So to be able to do that, we need to have assets tagged so we know. The other thing that we pain point that we have is sometimes it might take 3 back and forth between a vendor and a manager to get the right serial number, to get the right model number, to take pictures that they can actually see so that the tradesperson can have the right equipment or part to help repair the thing and not have to do another truck roll. So asset tagging takes all that out of the question. You already have a picture, you already have those things. And then we want to make sure that we're being better on repair versus replace decisions. So when you're sitting in that tag, it has all that history there where the manager in real time can understand what's the best route to take here. So those are some of the things. And then the other thing, like some of the things we realized, like we had it on everyone's phone, but only 50% of them were using the app, even though they had the asset tagged. And what we found was the internet was not good in the heart of house. So we need to put more Wi-Fi capabilities in there before we expect them to use the tool. And we have an iPad in the restaurant. Hey, maybe we can put the Krigo app on the iPad, and then they can do it from there. So their assets tagged are with their iPad. They don't need to worry about their phone. So we're taking these steps to ensure that as we go big with this, that we have the alignment of operations, and we've made it as simple as possible so that we can ensure we get that return on investment after the 18 months or 2 years that it takes. Because you have to, we have 1,200 restaurants. We're gonna have to go and 100 pieces of equipment in each one. Another one is, how do you tag the roof or the windows or things that you don't naturally have a tag that you can stick on a piece of equipment? Is it a binder that has it? How do we think about those things? So we're taking it step by step. And as we come to each of these questions, we're analyzing it. We're working with our partners to find out the best way to do things. And then we're taking a step forward.
Yeah, and I think as we've seen more and more interest in asset tagging, and I'm sure Scott will get into this a little bit, the strategy around the collection of data and ensuring that as you're setting up your strategy to track assets and scan assets, et cetera, you really got to think about the end state and what you're trying to extract by collecting all of that data to drive the repair, replace, where is an asset of a value that we should tag it? Where is an asset of a value that maybe we don't need to track it that way? Whatever, those decisions are very unique to the companies that you're all in, but you should stop at the beginning and think through that part, which is what you're saying. It's very important to have a strategy around the asset tagging, again, with the outcome in mind. So I had this other question come in. In today's landscape, many companies are striving to optimize resource utilization. How are you approaching the challenge of resource utilization?
Yeah. So yeah, it is a challenge. And so the first thing is we're driving ownership mindset in our operations, right? Because they are the key to this. So they need to have that ownership mindset, making sure that they're good stewards. And then I think the operations partnership and support through the facilities management. So if we're asking our operators to own it, we have to be strong support partners for them and making sure that they do feel comfortable in what is going on, the sights, the smells, the sounds, and they know when something is working and is not. And they also know their role in making sure that we're made aware of those things. I think too, what we're doing on our facilities management team is making sure that we're our experts every day, continuing to learn about our systems, about our equipment. We're not all experts, and many of the facilities managers were former operators, which makes us good at the support and the partnership. But we also have to be the one that they can trust to call when they can't answer something, or when a vendor might say, "Hey, you need to do this repair." How can we challenge those things to make sure that it is really something that we need? And then we also have a national account team that supports our fire, life, safety, grease, waste management. So that center point of contact takes it off of the restaurants. Those things, we cannot have a fire. That's bad for business. So, we've got to make sure we have clear ownership of some of these things and a direct feedback line with operators so that they know who to call when there is a performance issue. And the last one is we have a capital team that owns big things like roofs, parking lots, windows, painting programs. If you think about, 1,200 roofs, if we have a center point of contact for that, we can ensure that we are replacing roofs consistently. We are looking at the bids. We are getting trusted vendors, and we're not having the Wild West out there where maybe an operator says, "Hey, I want a new roof," when really they have a leak that just needs to be patched up, and the roof is still in good condition. But who's to know whether that roof is in good condition? So our capital team works with as a preventative with a roof company that goes and inspects all our roofs annually. So now we have a capital plan for the next 3 years of what we need to make sure our roofs are watertight. And I have my capital team that's a center point of contact for that so that they can ensure that we are spending the money wisely and where needed.
Yeah, that's great. That's very helpful, Jason. Max, you're kind of seeing both sides of the world. Any thoughts around asset tagging or anything that we just talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. Two things Jason just said that really stuck with me. First one was asset tagging is the future. Couldn't agree more. It's not something that we do a ton of. Again, just kind of being more on the service pro side and self-performing side. With some of our other clients, we're pushing for it where we can. It's the one thing that I see a lot of pushback on. They don't want to do it, and that is an enormous pain point that we deal with often, where something that could have been handled or preventative or tagged and listed somewhere, part numbers, anything along those lines turns into an emergency. So that's one thing. The other big thing is, and this is a great line, how do you tag a roof? How do you tag windows? That hits really hard for me because that's what we do a lot of. And those are the things where it's like, what do you do? What are the methods to kind of move forward and keep track of those things that you can't traditionally do that to? So that's a really interesting concept. I think it's something that ultimately we're going to adopt, and I think everyone will, and it's the future, truly.
Yeah, and there are really cool technologies that can augment the data that you collect from asset tagging now, where you can begin to use AI to pull back manuals, to pull back all sorts of very relevant information to help those that are actually working on the asset to be more proficient, to have more knowledge. Just really, really cool stuff happening across the board in that space. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Max. We're going to jump over to Scott for a minute and talk about artificial intelligence. So if you think back to the poll, it's not uncommon to see a little bit of this. Yeah, we feel it's coming, but we don't really know what to do. We're a little nervous about implementing it. And our survey, when we ran the State of FM, kind of pulled back that same information that we saw previously in the poll. So Scott, as we kind of talk about AI, how can artificial intelligence be leveraged to automate and streamline key processes in facilities management operations?
Tim, that's a great question. And really, I think there's two main things that come to the forefront, and that's predictive maintenance and work order scheduling. So with AI-powered driven predictive maintenance, you can anticipate when equipment failures are going to happen before they happen, right? And I think that's what everybody's trying to get to. This not only reduces the downtime, but it also prevents the overspending on unnecessary maintenance, and AI can help with that. Just one example, it's a global elevator company, and they're using AI-powered predictive maintenance systems for their elevators. And they're collecting and analyzing data from their sensors, and they're predicting those failures before they occur. It's actually reduced their elevator downtime by up to 50%, and has extended the lifespan of those elevator components. So again, we're seeing some good movement there with AI. Another one, like I mentioned, is scheduling, or sometimes known as Schedule AI. And these systems intelligently assign the work orders based on the urgency, just depending upon the verbiage that's used in the work order, the specialty, plumbing, electrical, whatever it might be, the technician's skill level, because that's an important factor in all of this, the geography for route optimization to make sure that we're not sending technicians all over the place. And then the availability of those technicians. And it's like having a super efficient dispatcher working 24/7. It's a great thing to have. Another case study that was out there was a large university campus. They're using this AI scheduling system, and they're using those same type of parameters around it. And they've actually been able to reduce their response times by 20%, and while improving their overall maintenance efficiency. So we're seeing some great movement with AI in these two different areas.
And when it comes back to the topic we were discussing around asset management and tagging, how can artificial intelligence help us revolutionize that whole process? Because it has been an antiquated, difficult process. We're seeing it become much easier, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so this is a little far out, but we're starting to see what's called AI vision systems. So basically, it's able to analyze video and pictures and be able to see the assets that sit within them. So you can take these images and video feeds, and in seconds, it can pull down the specific equipment. So you can use this either for tagging equipment. I've seen some early applications where you can tag equipment virtually using a smartphone, and it shows the equipment, you highlight it, and you put in all the information. But also for a technician walking into a facility, they can use that same app kind of in that augmented reality to be able to find the equipment that they need. And by simply tapping on it, they get all of the information around that. We've seen this really take flight in some adjacent industries, such as warehousing, where they're using computer vision AI as well to identify and categorize millions of items. And they can do this rather quickly instead of having to barcode and do some of that manual data entry. So I suspect that we'll see more of that as we continue to leverage AI. And then what you had mentioned earlier, you can use AI to take all the unstructured text in manuals and in invoices and be able to bring that into a structured manner that can be consumed by technicians and by facility managers to understand the costs around that. So I think those are two key items there that could really help us out.
Great. And like I'm seeing questions come in, which is great. So please send them. But this question that just popped up, I hear a lot. So I'll start with Scott, but then Jason, Max, jump in. So Mohammed asked, do you think AI will replace any facilities management jobs?
You know, that's a really great question. And we hear it a lot. I think that's on the minds of a lot of individuals. I don't think that it will replace them. I think there's still a very important role for facility managers. Yes, they do need to learn the AI tools that we're talking about here because they will help them to be more efficient and to do more with less, right? But there's still the critical human skills, right? You need to be able to talk to customers, to those that are doing the work orders, and also do some of the complex problem solving. And AI is not perfect either. So you do still have to, understand what's really going on in the facility. You can't just let AI do everything. So those are my thoughts around that.
Yeah, and I would add, because this came up at a forum we were at not long ago, I don't think it will replace jobs. I think 15 years from now, the skill, or maybe less, the skill set will need to adjust a bit because
Absolutely.
AI will be such a component of what we're doing. But I think it's more of that. So the recommendation would be don't kind of stiff arm AI and say you're going to wait, get in, learn it now, help those that you're mentoring in the industry to begin to embrace AI. I think it's more that than job replacement. So Scott, in what ways can artificial intelligence help facility managers optimize resources and improve operational efficiency?
Yeah, great question, Tim. So I think there's really two things, and they go hand in hand, and that's AI chatbots and AI analysis. AI chatbots have become the front lines of solving some complex problems and complex inquiries. It's if you think about it, it's like having a data analyst that never needs a coffee break. You can always go to the AI chatbot and type in what you need, right? And they understand the FM jargon, right? So you can type in your own terminology, what you're searching for, and it can bring back all of that data. They call that natural language processing, where you speak in your natural language and it understands what you're trying to get at. And it really enables the facility managers to interact with their asset management system, to analyze real-time sensor data, maintenance records, equipment specifications, to provide the insights on the asset health, and also look at your vendors and their performance as well, and how can you optimize that. There was a case study about a paper mill that did some of this, and they're using this AI chatbot. They were able to reduce their maintenance cost by 30% and decrease their downtime by 35% over an 18-month period. So there's definitely benefits on having an AI chatbot help drive some of those insights within your organization. Now, pairing that also with AI analysis, it's not all about equipment, because we've also seen that it can help with optimizing cleaning routes and schedules. In one large retailer that you probably all know very well, they've actually implemented AI-powered robots that sense the foot traffic and the floor cleanliness. And they're able to use this type of analysis to ensure the high traffic areas are cleaned more frequently. They've been able to improve their cleaning efficiency by 20% and obviously reduce the labor cost with that as well. So I think these are just some of the things that we're seeing with AI that can really drive that resource and operational efficiency.
Yeah, and one of the things, again, for anyone that's listening and kind of skeptical of AI, just one thing to consider. The technology or the thinking side of AI has been training now for, a handful of years, but the hardware has not been able to keep pace with the actual intelligence of AI. But that gap is closing, to Scott's point, where we can control multiple in-building robotic cleaning services or drones or whatever it is to work together, which is new. And we'll continue to see this evolution as hardware begins to be more commensurate with the actual AI intelligence. So there's really super cool stuff that all of us need to be paying attention to. I guess I'll jump to Max and Jason. How is it, now I'll go to you, Max. Is AI impacting your organization at all today? What are your thoughts?
To be 100% honest, it's not. It's something that's in the conversation. It's something that we're all, talking about constantly. I don't have any direct experience with it outside of something along the lines of like a chat GPT, which I think everybody has become so, accustomed to using for things, and it's very helpful. But there's nothing that we do in the day-to-day that we're using it. It's certainly in the conversation. I think what's interesting, I think Scott makes a good point. I definitely don't think it's going to replace. I think it's just going, like you said, Tim, change skill set. So that's going to be interesting to see. It definitely, you're never going to get rid of that critical thinking. Maybe I shouldn't say never. You never know. But it seems as, in the near future, 15, 20, 25 years even, I don't think you're going to get rid of that critical thinking asset that comes along with facilities and all of the stuff that we all deal with every day. The one thing that's interesting, as Scott did say, was the scheduling, something along those lines. I wonder to see what it would do for things like that, whether it's PMs or even just day-to-day scheduling and management of services and service pros and technicians. That would be interesting to see how it could help, our company with that. But yeah, I'm excited for it for sure. I'm not one of those people that's worried, and I think a lot of people are.
Jason, how about you?
Yeah, so we are believers in AI, and we actually have AI for our labor forecasting. So our sales forecast at every Chili's is based on AI. So we've already gotten touch points with AI with our operators. So when we tested that, 95% of the operators wanted the AI because it was more accurate. So we told that story, and now people don't know what they did before AI. It used to take maybe an hour every week to do your forecast and make sure you got seasonality, school in, school out. AI handles all that. So now they've had an experience, but when we were starting it, we had to really, tell a story about what is AI. AI is like a bionic arm. So if you have a bionic arm, do you still need to be around? Yes. The bionic arm does not work without somebody moving the arm, right? The other piece of that is that we need to go slow with it, right? And make sure that we understand what AI can do and what AI can't do, right? What I see here is we're going to continue to level up on higher value opportunities with our facilities managers, right? Connecting with vendors, driving performance, operations support and partnership, training, education. Those are things that AI might not be able to do with that human touch. Also, assessments, right? Being out there, assessing the restaurant, making sure you're getting in there. But if you have AI behind you, you feel more comfortable when you can go out and do 100 assessments, that you can get those done and not have to worry about the administrative things or other pieces. We also have a thing we call not to exceed, right, on some of our deals. Well, what if AI can tell you the vendors that are going closest to the NTE and tell you how they're getting there or how they're doing it, so you can have focused feedback for those vendors that might be pulling the rug under you and always hitting the not to exceed. Well, hey, if AI was seeing that, now they can provide that information and say, hey, Jason, go talk to vendor X about why it's 70% of their work orders are at the NTE with no true detail on what they did. Now I can hunt with that things, and I can guarantee that's going to save me money when my vendors know that I'm watching and I'm paying attention.
Yeah. And you think about the time that would save if you were going to do that as a project and try to figure that out today. You'd need analysts, you'd need weeks, you'd need to sort data, you need to do all those things. And now you can almost do it in a push of a button with the advancements in AI. So I got, again, several questions in. Scott, I think this one is for you. It came from Brian Tanner. How can AI be used in IoT devices that monitor our assets?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I mentioned that earlier, I think, in what I had mentioned, right? Like, we need to understand what's going on with the asset, right? And so that's what those IoT devices are doing. They're providing us details about what's going on with that. And so that needs to be included in the overall analysis. It can't just be looking at work orders, for example, or when was the last service call. The IoT devices give us that level of information. And in that example of that global elevator company, that's exactly what they're doing. They're able to gather data about those assets remotely to help in understanding when something is going to break down before it actually breaks down. You could see similar things in, say, refrigeration or HVAC, where you can detect certain levels where it's on or off, where it should be. And before something actually goes down, you can send a technician and have that fixed. So I think that's the balance of having IoT involved in the AI decision analysis.
That's great. If you guys are all okay, there are so many questions. I'm going to jump over and try to answer as many of these as we can. So Jason G asked, what is your recommendation as how to convince upper level management to invest in a CAFM or CMS software? Is it increased productivity, reduced maintenance costs, all of the above? Like, what's your advice to someone that's trying to get the C-suite to invest in technology?
So I can go with that. So the first thing I think about is simplification, right? How are you simplifying your business so that the people that are on the front line can do their job and perform at a high level, right? So you should ask that question. Is your process simple? The other thing I would say is, what are your pain points? Are you having operations disruption? Because if you are, those are things that you can start to talk about. And then you can start to build ROIs around, hey, what does it mean when I have one more table that I can seat and I can turn, or one more widget that comes out? What does that mean to our business and our profitability and growth? And then I think also, we have to continue to challenge the status quo. Look, I'm competing every day and I'm going to win. So if you want to win, you got to compete against me. So what are you doing to stay competitive in your industry or things that you're doing? Because there's someone like me that's thinking about these things and is going to have a better profit margin, that I'm going to be able to sustain my business longer than you can if you're not thinking about these things. So, some of that, you also have to find the balance between preventative maintenance. You could go all the way to to swing the pendulum all the way preventative and spend more money. It's really finding that balance through constant feedback, constant challenging, and doing things like this. We're listening to other competitors and what do the best people do. And we always create beliefs through live experiences, stories, and systems. So how are you using those three things to create beliefs in your organization to drive what you want, which is, hey, these systems help us go faster, simplify the business, and remove pain point and ops disruption.
All right, David C. from Vancouver, Canada. What CMMS systems are successfully being used that include asset tagging, mobile working? Have you found a sweet spot of how to manage that technology? Maybe Max or Jason?
That might be better suited for Jason, to be honest. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Jason?
Yeah. So we are using Corrigo as our CMMS system, right? So they manage our work orders, manage the tickets. We also are partnering with them on the asset tagging. So it's all in that same system. It's the system of record. And we're partnering with them closely so that they can show us the playbook that they have, and then we can incorporate that playbook and then potentially add a couple more pages to that playbook based on our size and scope of what we do to continue to make this better. But I think it starts with a strong partnership, and Corrigo for us has been that partner that has showed up so that we can move forward and dive into some of these other things, because we need to do more with less.
Yeah, and Jason, one other question. Oh, sorry, was there another comment on that?
I just wanted to jump in there. That I figured Jason would be better suited on that one because it did mention asset tagging. But as far as we use Corrigo as well, and it just briefly has been incredible. And it's like Jason said, they've showed up for us, and we have a great relationship. So that's our main source as well.
Thank you. There's a question from Daniel Z, and it's directed to Jason. Do you define your service catalog on your own, or you use predefined workflows to tackle your most common service orders?
Yeah, so we have a list of all the equipment, all the trades, and then we even have categorizations of emergency, priority, urgent. So not only do we have the equipment, but like if we have 2 of our fryers down, that is an emergency. But if we have 1, it's urgent because we have 4. Right. So we could still do, but when you get down 2, that's hard on a Friday night. So we do have that. And you can also go down to task codes so that it really tells you like plumbing, hey, not draining or whatever, so that we also can see secondary trends on what is, even though it's plumbing, what is it? Drains backed up is 50% of our plumbing calls. Hey, what are we doing? Are we putting grease down there? Do we have caps on the drain so that they're not getting ramekins and ketchup bottles down there? Like, what are we doing to do that? So it helps us continue to make sure that our efforts are focused on the right things.
Excellent. There's a question from John Malazzo, and I'm going to try to interpret it, but it says, as a facilities director for a QSR brand, our customers are a restaurant, right? That's your customers are everything, right? Managers build relationships with their vendors and have them fill out surveys can skew results based on relationships. I'm translating that to kind of where everything happens. Vendors and local managers build relationships that may not be the right thing for the overarching business. How are you guys managing that?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to, and it is true. Like when I ask a manager, if they're not satisfied, say dissatisfied. And they say, well, I like the person. Okay, but if you're not doing that, you're not helping the bigger organization understand the trends of performance. And we're asking you as a manager to do a lot of things, right? So you should have strong performing vendors that have your back. And you should know that that is a place of feedback, and feedback makes us stronger. So, that piece to the operators, you have to convince them that they are an important piece of driving performance for your job, and you are a critical piece to them in the foundation of well-maintained buildings and equipment.
Yeah, Matt,
There's a synergy
anything to
there.
add to that?
Yeah, so on the technician and service pro side of that, no one ever wants bad reviews, right? Especially when you have a great relationship with whomever. But it's necessary, it's needed. We don't love to see them come through, but when we do, we know on our service technician or our service pro side, something has to be done. We have to do something like, mend whatever we've done, but the relationships are still there, and that's important. And I think that's a large part of the conversation, where you don't want to have relationships that are too good, because then sometimes it can go the opposite way. So that's a great question.
Great. I think we have time for maybe two more. Scott, I think this one was you. I'm going to wrap two questions together. How do you support, and this is from Claudia Johansson, how do you support FM teams with AI knowledge? Do you have tips for what they should be kind of tailoring their workforce to, AI courses? Like what's that person look like of the future within the FM space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, if you take some of the different tools, AI tools that are out there, and you search for courses on that, I think you'll be able to find that. But you would have to be specific on what types of courses there are. And perhaps there's stuff within IFMA that you search and be able to draw some more information on that. So, and last but not least, you can always use an AI chatbot like ChatGPT. They'll give you a lot of great resources about this different type of technology and where, what it can do for your business. So I think there's several different resources out there.
Right. And one other question, Scott, directed to you. This is from Robert Hall. Scott, does Corrigo have the ability to leverage AI, as you were discussing, AI scheduling, optimization, bundling work orders, et cetera?
Well, that's a really good question. And maybe I can't say anything, but there are some pilots going on right now where that technology is happening within Corrigo. So we're in the final stages of making that available. But yeah, absolutely. And Corrigo does a lot of the scheduling of work orders for PM/RM type maintenance items. But yeah, I think AI is very important to Corrigo, and I think you'll start to see more and more functionality in there to drive these specific features that we've talked about. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour. We really thank you to the panel, Jason, Max, Scott. I think the information was fantastic. We appreciate your insights. Thank you, Team IFMA, for coordinating and putting forth the webinar. Again, remember that we'll be sending out the video and the actual State of FM report. And from all of us, we hope that you found this useful and helpful. And I don't know, there's still several questions. We'll figure out how to get those answers out to everyone else. So again, thank you for the engagement. And from all of us, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.